All right, the tall, skinny tumbler mug. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because you got all that on the previous video, but there was a few things different with this tall, skinny mug that I wanted to point out in case you were using this size mug. The first difference is that you're going to want to swap out the foam piece on the mug turner that you put the mug onto. That big foam piece is just way too big for this mug. You need to use the smaller one. Obviously, this mug already has glitter on it, but I just didn't like how it turned out, so I decided to redo it. Just like the last mug, prepare your resin, apply a coat to the mug, and then add your glitter. Now this one doesn't have the stainless steel bands at the top and the bottom, so you've got to decide, do you want to put glitter on the bottom of your mug, or do you not want to? If you want to put it on the bottom, you just need to be careful that there's no big glitter pieces sticking off the mug funny on the parts where the mug curves, because you're going to need to have a perfectly smooth bottom so that when you set this mug down, it sits flat without rocking funny. Another thing to take into consideration is the very top of the mug, because you're going to need to apply resin all the way up to the top, but that's where the lid's going to go. So if you mess up and get any resin on like the tippy top part of the mug or on the inside of the mug, you might mess up the seal, which could lead to coffee spills down the road, which you definitely don't want to do that. So when you're doing the top, use a tissue or a gloved finger to just kind of wipe and check to make sure that there are no drips of resin that are going to block that seal in any kind of way. I usually check for this a couple times while I'm making the mug, but then again at the end after I finish that coat, I just do one last check around the rim and on the inside of the rim to make sure that there's no bumps or any kind of resin or anything in there. Glitter on the bottom of the mug is actually kind of tricky. I didn't do it on this one, but I did it on a different one that was this style. I ended up kind of throwing it onto there. I saw this really cool tutorial on Pinterest where some gal took like a handful of glitter and blew it onto a vertical surface like that, and I tried that and I totally did not cover the bottom of my mug, and I'm still cleaning up glitter from it. So I ended up just kind of taking like pinches of glitter and just gently tossing it at the bottom, and it did take a while. It was kind of hard to do, and I'm not sure if it's really necessary. I think it's more of a personal preference if you want glitter on the bottom or not. The most important thing though is just that the bottom of your mug is flat and smooth at the end of the whole process so that your mug doesn't wobble. Oh my gosh, isn't that teal beautiful? I used the extra resin from this pour to make a cute little matching ladybug for Andy. These molds have come in so handy for this project, so if you skip that section up above on the class, make sure you go back and do that. It's a really cool project, and you can create any kind of neat little mold that you can just fill while you're making these adorable mugs. Tall, skinny tumblers are a lot more narrow than the other mugs that I was using. So when you're doing a mug this size, you want to make sure that your decal that you cut is a little bit smaller. You don't want a 4-inch wide decal on this one. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to read what it says or see the whole design. I limit my decal width on these style mugs to 3 inches wide. When you get to the final seal coat of your tumbler mug, put it on just like you did that original first coat of resin. If you put it on the bottom, you'll definitely want to cover up the bottom. You might need a couple of coats just to make sure that it's smooth. If you didn't put anything on the bottom of your mug, you won't need to put your final seal coat on the bottom. And again, you want to be really careful up at the top of the mug, up by the rim. Make sure that you don't get any resin on the top part of the rim or on the inside where it would prohibit the seal from working correctly. Other than that, these tall skinny mugs are done just like the other ones, with the base layer, the glitter, the extra coat of sealant on there before you put the decal on, and then the extra coats on top of the decal. It's all the same process. I made this Andy mug for one of my favorite cousins who lives out in Michigan. In the other videos, you'll see a Susie mug. That's the one I made for her mom. This mug ended up being one of my very favorite mugs, which is funny since I ended up hating it in the beginning and redid it. But I was so glad that I took a chance and redid it because it seriously ended up being one of my very favorite mugs.